presentation that we prepared for you is to introduce you about Buddhism. Very brief and very short. What means Buddhism for us? So we will start with a brief introduction about what is the Buddha.
I think is most important about the Buddha is that the Buddha was a man. He was a human being, not divine. And what this speaks to is the possibility for each of us to find freedom from suffering, right? That the practices that are offered in the Buddhist tradition are meant to for human beings, and with the opportunity for us to see for ourselves, to come and see for ourselves through these practices, a way of being in the world that is not at the mercy of external circumstances, that to be fully human, that we can really meet our full humanity. And in that, there's an alchemy and a way of peace.
Thank you so much, Genevieve. And we will continue about the Four Noble Truths with Gen Kelsang Tabkay.
So this is really all Buddha's teachings can be contained within the Four Noble Truths. And it was the first teaching Buddha gave after attaining enlightenment. So these truths is a translation from the Kadampa Buddhist tradition, that you should know sufferings, you should abandon the origins, you should practice the path, and you should attain cessations. So essentially what this means in very, very short form with knowing sufferings is that essentially we should not be like an ostrich with its head in the sand, but we should have the courage to face the truth of suffering so that we can do something about it. Buddha was very practical in being concerned with how we can stop suffering, how we can end suffering. So we need to be aware of it and conscious of it so that we can do something about it. And Buddha described that the origins of that suffering that we experience are not coming from outside, but they're arising from within our own mind, our own negative states of mind, sometimes called delusions, of which we have many types of unpeaceful, distorted states of mind, but the main three are anger, uncontrolled desire, or attachment and ignorance. So Buddha described an inner path to free us from the origins of that suffering. So it's not an outer path, but it's an inner spiritual path that anyone can practice to reduce and eventually let go of suffering altogether, of which he described many meditation-based practices and wisdom ways of thinking that are pathways to inner freedom, lasting peace, liberation, and enlightenment. The three, these can be condensed into three from Kadampa Buddhist perspective, which is moral discipline, concentration, and wisdom. Moral discipline, like doing no harm, choosing not to harm others, and holding back from negative actions. Concentration or meditation, we're removing distraction from our minds so that it becomes very powerful. And then wisdom is an insight into how things are, reality. Through those practices, held with a good motivation, we can attain cessations, freedom from that suffering, attain lasting inner peace, liberation, and enlightenment.
Thank you, Gen Tabkay. We continue with Buddhism timeline with Ron Russell and Sogen Charles.
Like Genevieve said, the Buddha was born. He was born to a life of opulence in India and chose to renounce that and try to seek a better way. For a long time, it remained in India, and then it migrated into Southeast Asia and China, where it continues to flourish to this day. Vietnamese, Burmese, all very popular in the Buddhist tradition. And from there, it went to Japan. And from there, I'll hand it over to Sogen.
Buddhism first made its way to Japan by way of Korea, is my understanding, around 525. And then eventually making its way from China to Japan a little later. Of course, this practice in Japan also took on, aspects of the Japanese culture and sort of a blending with the Shinto tradition in Japan. Eventually making its way to the West and to the U.S. and many teachers, going back to its first arrival, I guess, in the U.S., had said that the energy for this practice is in the West and in this country in particular was commented by a number of teachers. And so the lineage, I guess, that I'm practicing in, goes back to China with Bodhidharma coming over to China from India around late part of the 5th century and was considered the first patriarch of Zen, if you will, or Zen would be referred to as Chan in China, and eventually making its way, like I said, to Japan and then here. So the guiding teacher when this temple was founded was Joshu Sasaki Roshi that came to America early 1960s and taught for just over 50 years before his passing. Currently, we're seeing quite a bit of enthusiasm, seeing the words mindfulness, Zen, and meditation quite a bit these days, but usually expressed with a bit of a misunderstanding. So getting together like this is just a wonderful opportunity to maybe investigate these things a little further.
Thank you, Ron and Sogen. Now we will have a moment, very important, to share our personal experience about how Buddhism has been part of our lives. And we can start with Gen Tabkay.
Thank you, Vasu Bandhu. So, I started with my journeys in Buddhist meditation about 15 years ago. At that time, through practicing, through connecting with the teachings, my life just transformed tremendously, and was able to let go of a lot of struggles and problems I was having through that. And it just became a major passion in my life at that point. It became my main interest and passion. And then I had the opportunity to meet my spiritual teacher, my spiritual guide, Gen Kelsang Tabkay, in 2009. And that was a transformative experience for me. And I knew at that point that was the main part of my life. And long story short, I ended up becoming a Buddhist monk some years later and a teacher. And so that's my great good fortune. I get to share these teachings that have helped me so much with others. So.
Thank you, Gen Tabkay. We invite now Genevieve.
So it was interesting that at one point before I came into this practice, I had read a little bit about Buddhism, and I remember the biggest thing that what I got from that reading initially was that I had to not be attached to anything, and I thought, well, that's not for me. I don't really get that, and I like my attachment. And so years later, when I began to do some spiritual work, and I really wanted to look at different traditions, and I did a lot of inquiry and exploration, and then came again to the practices. They really clicked, and so to say that there is a lot of misunderstanding around that, around what that means, which obviously we don't have time to. That's a teaching. But if that's something that maybe came up for you, I would encourage you to look into really what that is about. But yeah, when I came back to the teachings, I was living in the Bay Area, California, and there were quite a lot of Buddhist teachers in that area. And I started practicing, and it just clicked. And it made sense to me in a way that things had not before. And I became very engaged with the communities there, the Insight Meditation community. Did many long retreat periods, and just felt very inspired in the practice. It inspired and changed my life, my own awareness, allowed me to really embrace my own strengths and confidence. And so I was just so inspired that in the teachings that I just would start to spontaneously teach. So I decided that was the area that I wanted to pursue. And in 2014, I moved back to Phoenix, where I grew up, and started teaching in the Insight meditation tradition and teaching mindfulness classes, and never looked back. So thank you.
Thank you, Genevieve. We invite you now, Sogen Charles.
I guess I came to this practice about 15 years ago, and I guess like many people in a bit of a confusing time of my life, knew I had all kinds of questions and realized I had to look within. I had no idea how to do that. And very fortunately, I got nudged in the direction of Zen Practice, and that Hakuinji, this small Zen center in Tempe, happened to be in the town I was living. So I eventually made my way here. But even before making it here, the first time I sat Zazen, or seated Zen, or meditation at home, within 5 minutes of just sitting still on a cushion and paying attention to the breath, I knew that for me, this is what had to be done for the rest of my life. To truly just investigate this, and so it's something that I threw myself into completely, and in many ways this practice demands that, and it demands in many ways vulnerability, and so I quickly learned that we tend to build up kind of a protective barrier around us through most of our life, and because we don't want to get hurt, and we don't want to be vulnerable. And soon enough, I realized, well, this is what's actually getting in the way of truly living. And something that was really resonated with me in this practice is that it was expressed that the only true understanding comes from our own direct experience. We tend to have a very dualistic perspective on life, and so this practice is a chance to maybe let go of that. So I practiced very sincerely for many years, and still carrying on a career and raising a daughter. 2014, the abbot of this place passed away after about a 7-month battle with mesothelioma, and for some reason he asked me to take care of this place after he passed, and so I agreed for some reason as well, but had no idea what the responsibility I was taking on, but I knew how important this place was for me personally, and for so many people in our community. So I knew I would give everything, every cell of my body, and then some, to maintaining the practice here, and maintaining the focus and the sincerity of the practice here. And so I'm not a teacher, but I do guide the practice here. And for us here, the form of the practice is crucial. And it offers us kind of a structure or a cradle that slows things down a little bit, and it's a bit of a choreographed dance, but it's giving us a chance to just pay attention and start to recognize, well, I'll speak for myself, start to recognize my countless delusions and ignorance as that arises. And of course that's not all, but when we're able to start recognizing that, maybe we're able to start letting go of attachments. And so this practice and the form of this practice has been invaluable in my life. I don't even know how to express my gratitude. So I feel very fortunate to have been exposed to these teachings and this practice. Thank you.
Thank you, Sogen. We invite you to share your experience, Casper.
Thank you very much, Vasu. I'll try to make it brief. I was raised an Irish Roman Catholic, which I'm not sure is all that close to being Buddhist, but about 38 years ago, I was working with this lady, and she had a book called Introduction to Buddhism on her desk. And I'd always been interested in Buddhism because even in my high school religion classes, they had talked about it a little bit, so it always seemed intriguing. And so I decided to go to a meeting, SGI meeting. Now, SGI stands for Soka Gakkai International, just for those of you who are unfamiliar with the group. And it's actually a very organized group, and it practices a form of Nichiren Buddhism, which is from Japan. And so I went and slowly I didn't really take things too seriously for a while, just kind of went slowly at it. But over the years, I really developed an affinity toward it. So there's some very interesting things about Nichiren's teaching that are different from others that we'll get into as people ask questions. But I found that it's really been very beneficial for me in helping me to have faith in myself. I had a lot of fears, a lot of other problems. I still have problems. None of us escape problems, or as somebody calls it, suffering. But it's part of the practice is to empower yourself to overcome that. And the other thing that I'm noticing too is everybody's talking about the term practice, and I think that's an important facet of Buddhism that we need to all remember, because it is a practice. It's not just going to a worship service on Sunday or doing your daily whatever you do, either meditation or Nichiren Buddhist chant, the phrase Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. And I can get into that if you want to later, but we all have our different things. But what it is practicing your life. You put your practice, your Buddhist practice into your daily life. And so that's really the big takeaway for me. And I got involved with interfaith work 22, 23 years ago now, and I've enjoyed every bit of it. So I'll stop there for now and see what I can add later.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, each of you. Ron, Rosa, if you would like to share your personal experience.
Yeah, like most other people, I came to Buddhism through pain and suffering. I was looking for Buddhism to solve that. That did not wind up to be totally the truth. However, it allowed me to see it more clearly and work with it more skillfully. And Buddhism and meditation and mindfulness has colored my life in many different ways, from the ways I engage politically to the ways I raise my children. And I am that annoying dad that teaches her daughter the three gates. Is it true? Is it necessary and helpful? And is it kind? Right? And so she gets all of those little tidbits of wisdom over and over and over again. But it has truly been something that has filled me with joy to practice and changed my life dramatically, made me a much more compassionate and kind human being. And yeah, that's about it.
Thank you so much, Ron. It's so beautiful to connect with our personal experience. It's so sacred to be together today from different schools of Buddhism. It's beautiful the diversity that we have in the Buddhist family. And to continue, we will have a meditation practice with Gen Tabkay. The time is yours, Gen Tabkay.
This will just be a very brief, you could say a little bit of a taster of a meditation, just a few minutes here, really. What we'll do is we'll just spend just a moment or two settling our mind and generating a good heart. So you can just sit comfortably with your eyes closed, allowing your body and mind to relax. Coming to bring our awareness inwards. Noticing the simple sensation of our own breath. Just remaining completely relaxed, but focused upon this simple feeling with a quiet mind, allowing it to begin to take up the space of our mind, moment by moment, relaxing within it. We can connect with our good heart, feeling ourselves to be surrounded by our family, friends, and all living beings. Seeing how we are all the same and wishing for happiness and freedom from suffering. We can develop a simple, heartfelt wish for all these beings to have your happiness and every good condition, that they be well and happy. Remaining with this good heart for a few moments. Even as we begin to relax our attention, we can develop the intention to bring this good heart, our peaceful mind, with us, even as we arise from the meditation. We allow this inner peace and good heart to influence our actions, words, and thoughts, so that we ourselves can greatly benefit, as can all those around us, from this meditation. Relaxing our attention, we can arise from this brief meditation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gen Tabkay. With this beautiful and deep meditation, we are grateful with each of you, with each community of the Buddhist family. We share with you here the logos for say thank you to each of you for your time, for your experience, for your teachings. Now we open the time for all of you to share questions. Sadhbir, you shared with us some reflections here in the chat. So beautiful. And I wonder if you would like to share more about.
One is more personal. How do you handle that human inclination to think, to feel, to believe that your practice is better than others? How do you manage that inclination personally? You can share how your tradition does too, but I'd like to, since we were talking about personal stories, personal experiences, it'd be good to know personally how you manage it. And the second one has to do with the current climate about Roe versus Wade in the Supreme Court, and the some of us, I mean, I can identify which, that I believe in choice, but not all people do. But I wonder, how does your tradition negotiate those kinds of issues in society and women's rights? Because I've learned that some traditions are more conservative, the way, within Christianity, say there's more conservative ideologies. I just would like to, I think it'd be really good to hear, because that's so current with what's happening today. Thank you very much. And if I'm not clear, just ask me.
And I don't necessarily fight my inclination to think that my path is the best, but I add 2 words to my sentence. The words are for me. I find that this form of Buddhism I practice is the best path for me. That doesn't mean that it's the best path for everybody, but that doesn't mean I can't introduce them to what my path is, how it's benefited me, and then ask them to do the same for me, and exchange those ideas with them. So that's how I look at that question. So let me cogitate about Roe. I'll be back.
I'd like to respond to the first one, and I feel like we have less than 15 minutes, so I kind of feel like that political inquiry would sort of take on a whole life of its own. But I feel like the way that I relate to my practice is that it is a practice. And, I mentioned at the beginning that the Buddha as a man basically offered, come and see for yourself if these work. And so when I teach from my passion about the practice as an offering, and to be in service, and with the invitation to see if these practices resonate for you, and if you want to try them. And that's actually what I think is quite beautiful about the Buddhist tradition, is that it does not come from a doctrinaire place, that it doesn't, it really can be engaged from this place of practice. So that's all I'll share.
I'll toss in on that as well. I think that as long as your practice, whatever that contemplative practice is, whatever that tradition is, as long as it leads you to a self-awareness and a deeper and broader understanding of yourself and how you interact and embody that in the world, then I'm all good. I mean, it's great. We can all choose different paths, and we can all be kinder, gentler, more supportive of one another, helping those in need, and really advocating for our values, which generally are shared human values. So, yeah. And Roe versus Wade, the unified mindfulness tradition generally supports the woman's right to choose.
I would like to add a few comments, if I may. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Wendy.
Okay. With regard to the first question, I concur with you, Ed, because we do what is best for us. And I say that because I come from a traditional indigenous tradition of believing, but I also practice Christianity because I find parallels there that empower me. And with that said, that is interactive and interrelated to the issues that we are facing with regard to Roe versus Wade. Because in indigenous communities and indigenous practices for years, there's always been answers for women that are in these situations. And it is up to us to find those mediaries and those elements in nature that can help guide us to make the decisions that are best for us. So when I see everybody arguing and laughing or, being non-respectful with this law, I just think, well, in our traditional ways, we already have it handled, so they can go ahead and do it. Just my comments.
Thank you, Wendy. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess I'll just say I've never viewed this as Zen Buddhist practice as better than anything else, and from my perspective, I agree with Ed's perspective. This is what I know I need to do, and I can't say that this is what everybody needs to do, but Zen practice should not be in conflict with any wisdom traditions or world religions. And in fact, I don't introduce myself as a Buddhist. I sure act a lot like one, but I'm afraid when we start introducing ourselves that way, all of a sudden it's creating a perceived separation, and so that in itself is at the heart of a lot of our trouble. And so I feel that in Zen practice we start letting go of that thinking mind and learning how to trust intuition. And that's difficult, but anyways, not better than anything else. Just what I need to do.
Thank you, Sogen.
Yeah, I mean, if I could just speak to that as well. I mean, I think I can just echo what others have said for me. I just view it as different practices and traditions for people of different karma. We all have different inclinations and interests, and something that will click for one person will not necessarily click for another. And so it's beautiful we have all these different faith traditions for that reason, so we can receive some spiritual benefit from these wisdom traditions. How I deal with it's quite easy. How I deal with the sort of inclination to consider your practice superior to others. It's very easy for me because I don't have a whole lot of experience with other traditions. I've mainly emphasized in my life Kadam Dharma, Kadam Buddhism. I know a little bit about others, but I can't really say what others are doing, so there's not much I can say in terms of, you know, what's better than the other. I'm not sure. I don't know what others are doing. I emphasized Kanam Dharma, but there's so many different precious wisdom traditions. So, yeah, great question.
Thank you again, Tabkay. Gail Turner?
My question had to do with Ron Russell made a mention about 3 gates. Could somebody expand on that and tell me or tell us how that is utilized in life practice decisions and pathway and practices?
Sure. So when confronted with a choice, right, it's something very simple that I tell my daughter. Is it true, right? And many times people believe something to be true for them, and that's okay. Is it necessary or helpful? Is the second gate. Is it contributing? Does it help someone in some way? Is it sometimes a difficult but necessary thing to do? And then is it kind, right? Are you approaching it from a perspective of compassion and kindness for the other person? And are you engaging with that in a kind way? And usually that is it kind is where you kind of go, yeah, that's not really the kind thing to do. So, okay, this is kinder. And that really helps in a lot of day-to-day decisions about how you treat other people and how you treat yourself.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
There was an acronym for that. Think. THINK. Is it thoughtful? Is it honest? Is it important? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And then the other one was that, does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? Does it need to be said by me now?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So beautiful. Reverend Katie, you shared also a question with us.
I did. So in college, I was introduced to Buddhism, which really helped me with anxiety. I turned to meditation to kind of calm down my anxiety first. But one thing I always struggled with, and I shared with Vasu many times as we've traveled to events, is the relationship between understanding Buddhism and interacting with social justice. So I just wonder, and I don't think we have time for everyone to answer, but if somebody wants to share the interaction between their tradition and social justice, or the call to communal justice, which is really important in my spiritual tradition, I'd love to learn more, because that was one of the things that I never could comprehend.
If you don't mind, let me chime in on it real quickly. It varies. There's a movement now among Buddhists called engaged Buddhism, which kind of goes to your point, Katie. And one of the prime proponents of that, or 2 of them that are better known, are Thich Nhat Hanh, the late Thich Nhat Hanh, of blessed memory, and also the Dalai Lama, both of whom do that. One of the first historical engaged Buddhists was actually Nichiren, who, if you read much about Nichiren's life, the founder of the Buddhism's Gakkai practices, he engaged with the government rather regularly. In fact, he was very adamant about his views. So there is a tradition among some Buddhist communities to do that. We just do it differently. And I think part of it is a lot of what you heard about about being kind about it. And I think that's something we all, just from my own perspective, we can learn. We have to realize that other people have a right to their views, and they believe them just as sincerely as we do. And so it's important to keep that in mind when we engage with people. It's just my thought on it. So,
thank you. And because the time, we also sorry for the time, but we can continue with my work.
Thank you. One thing I want to say is the obvious calmness of you and the other practices of Buddhism is it's here even in today's meeting. What I was going to say, I got into by accident, kind of got into the Transcendental Meditation practice, and I've done it for 50 years. It's really helped me a lot in my life. It's helped my spirituality, even as a Catholic. I'm just wondering if there any correlation between those practices. I guess the Maharishi Yogesh was the one that started it in India, I was wondering what the compare and contrast is with those two practices.
Beats me.
I can kind of give a brief. So transcendental meditation would fall in, there's basically two kinds of meditation practices. They can be split into concentration practices and wisdom practices. And there's of course crossover. Some of them may be more exclusively one or the other. The concentration practices are those that are like a mantra or a visualization, and that has a different intention. Those practices have the intention to bring a stability of mind, and those are the ones that will bring a sense of calm, a sense of ease. And then there are the wisdom practices, and the wisdom practices is the insight meditation or vipassana, and the intention is to see clearly. And the concentration practices support the capacity to see clearly. So I can go into much more detail, but I think we're really kind of out of time, but hopefully that's helpful.
Thank you so much, Genevieve, for your clarity.
Thank you so much, Genevieve and Mike. And we apologize for the short time that we have for this meeting. But before, we would like to invite each of the presenters to share how we can stay connected with your community. In Arizona Faith Network, we are planning to connect and to have a retreat with Gen Tabkay in the temple in Williams. And we wonder, Gen Tabkay, you would like to share with us how we can stay connected with your community, with the Kadampa tradition.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. Thanks for organizing this. I really appreciate getting to touch base with everyone, get to know everyone a little bit better, and maybe we can do it again in the future. Yeah, the Kadampa Buddhist Center, everyone's welcome at any time to our classes, events, retreats we have here at our meditation center. We've got all that information on our website, meditationinarizona.org. So we have drop-in teachings and meditations many times during the week. We do weekend events. And as you were touching on there, we also we have a retreat center and World Peace Temple up in Williams, Arizona, that we go to as well. It is a temple for world peace. It's open to everyone also. So yeah, you're welcome. Anyone's welcome anytime to come here to our center to any of those events, or up to the retreat center in Arizona, and you can find out about that on their website too. Yeah, but yeah, would love to do that or give people a tour anytime.
Thank you so much, Gen Tabkay, and thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you. Very kind.
Thank you so much. We wonder about Sogen Charles, about the same community, how we can stay connected with you.
I guess the best way to start communicating is usually through email. So our email is office@zenarizona.com. And we ask that folks all do an orientation, which is usually about an hour, which will, it touches on some Zen Buddhist perspective, but mainly just going over the form of the practice here. So you kind of know what the bells and the claps mean. And other than that, there's not a lot of talking. So once folks have gotten acquainted with the form of the practice, then you're welcome to come here. You're kind of part of the family for life at that point. And so any part of the schedule here that works for you, please, you're more than welcome. We started offering the practice online because of the pandemic, and I was pleasantly surprised with the connections we were able to maintain through that. So that will continue to be offered going forward. We are allowing folks here in person now, though we're asking all the folks that are practicing in person to be vaccinated. We just want people to feel that this is a safe space to practice, and so we're going to continue maintaining that policy. But again, welcome and open to anybody. If you're interested, please reach out. My name again, Sogen, and at office@zenarizona.com.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for your time, for being with us.
I'm honored to be here with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. I share with all of you in the chat the website of the community. Ron Russell, how we can stay connected with your community?
Yeah, so Unified Mindfulness has teachers all over the world, coaches, and you can find all the information about the different coaches, the different immersion retreats. So every year we have a 1-week immersive retreat that's all online. Happened before the pandemic, so it was a thing. So you can reach us there. There's also several retreats that are listed on that webpage, email lists, Facebook groups, all of that stuff that's available there. And they have daily online meditation guidance. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ron. We appreciate that. We wonder about, Genevieve, how we can stay connected with your community.
So my community is Insight Meditation Scottsdale. I actually put in the link if you wanted to check that out. And we, so coming back from the pandemic, we're kind of starting to re-engage a little bit. We were online, now we're in person again. We meet on Monday nights at 7 at the SCUCC, the Scottsdale Congregational United Church for Christ. That we've been sitting in that space for close to 8 years. So they've been very generous with us. In the past, and hopefully soon again, we would offer some day-long retreats, some class series and things like that. The offerings through that are in the tradition of dana, and that dana is the tradition in the Pali means generosity. So it's donation, based on donation. So feel free, if you're interested, to come on a Monday night. We do about a 35, 40-minute sit with some guidance. And then we have a Dharma talk and oftentimes Q&A, and very focused on the practical aspects of working with the insight practice, with the meditation practice, and how that works into daily life. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Genevieve. And we appreciate so much your leadership. Thank you. We wonder about, Ed Casper, how we can stay connected with the Soka Gakkai community.
Well, it's very simple. You can go either to sgi.org or sdi-usa.org and find out more. We have a couple buildings in town, but right now we're being a little bit restricted because of the pandemic, and everybody that goes in there has to be vaccinated. So, but you can certainly look us up on the internet. We're there. And also, I'm going to put a little book in the chat for those of you who are interested in some of the history of Buddhism in America. It's called Buddhism in America by a gentleman named Richard Hughes Seeger, who is who teaches religious studies, and was published by Columbia University Press a number of years ago. So I'll throw that into the chat there in case you're interested in reading something about it, and I'll send you the information on the book. It's an little older book, but it's a pretty comprehensive history of how Buddhism came to America and a number of the different schools that are here in the country. And again, it's a good 15, 20-year-old book, so it needs to be updated. But nonetheless, it's a good overview. So I'll throw that in there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ed. We appreciate you. Reverend Katie, I wonder if there is something else that you would like to share.
Great job, Vasu. This has been fascinating. Of course, it's my time when my dog thinks it's his time. But I'm really grateful to get to know all of you. I'm excited to come visit all of your meditation centers and learn more. And if you are interested in attending a retreat up in Williams, please drop your name in the chat so we can organize more around that.
Thank you so much, Reverend Katie. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here, for your time, for this opportunity to connect in the beautiful diversity of Buddhist family. How we call in Buddhism, we call the community the Sangha. And it's so beautiful to be connected in the global Sangha.